Welcome to Redefining ABCD.
All right, so today for Brown Art Network, the focus of our conversation will be surrounding representation of mental health in stories, film, TV, etc., as well as the South Asian community as a whole. Joining us in on our conversation is Sujata Day, the director and lead actress of our movie Definition Please, now streaming on Netflix. Hi, Sujata, it's so nice to have you. Welcome to our show.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
So before we dive into our central topic for today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners, as well as kind of a brief overview of your movie Definition, please?
Yeah, I'm from the suburbs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from a small town called Greensburg, and uh, had a great childhood, had a lot of fun. Was from a pretty non-diverse neighborhood, but what was really cool is that we have three temples that are about a half hour away from where we live in that region. And so I grew up around a lot of South Asian American kids and friends. So got to, go to graduations and parties and anniversaries on the weekend and was hanging out with my Indian friends. And it was really great. I went to Bharatanatyam at the temple. I did Hindu temple summer camp in Lake Erie. And then I started doing theater and plays and musicals in my elementary school throughout middle school and high school. And also started writing. I started writing short stories and poems. And my parents were very supportive of all of that. And they would come to my musicals every night, every day of the week when we had them like 6 nights a week, and they would bring flowers and sit in the first row. Um, but on the other hand, I was also really good at math and science. So I ended up going to Case Western to do engineering. And I did a year abroad in Sydney, Australia. And that's where I decided I was going to move to LA and, pursue entertainment, but I didn't know how I was going to get there necessarily. So I got a job with Accenture, and they moved me to Los Angeles, and I was pretty much the worst Accenture employee there ever was. And as I was trying not to get placed on a project, I would get my headshots taken, I would meet with agents, I would do auditions. And then a year later, I got laid off, which was also really great because I got severance and unemployment. And then about 6 to 8 months later, I booked three national commercials in a row. And that's when I really started feeling like a professional actor. I was making money doing it. And then I met Issa Rae on Twitter and joined a series called Awkward Black Girl, which was really great and very inspirational. And this all leads to Definition Please, which is my movie that came out or is playing on Netflix right now. It's about a former spelling bee champion who has now grown up into a young adult and has not reached her full potential. And she's still living at home. She's taking care of her sick mom, and she has to deal with her estranged brother that has come for a surprise visit.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the explanation for the movie and also like your background. It's really cool to hear like you were able to have a blend of like that Western and South Asian upbringing, and also your parents were supportive of your multiple interests growing up, which is really good to hear because a lot of times we don't like hear that often in a lot of representation, especially in films. So thank you for sharing that. To kind of dive more into like how you got started, was there like what kind of motivated you to kind of want to go into film and like this industry?
I think it was, I really loved acting. I loved being on stage. I would put on plays for in the backyard for our neighbors and my parents from the age of 5, and I would charge them a quarter to get into the show. And when I started doing musicals, that was when it was in a bigger auditorium in the high school. And I was always playing a very small role. I was like, had one line in the ensemble, but I had a lot of singing and dancing in the chorus in between. And whenever I had one line, it would always make the audience laugh. And I said, wow, this is what I gotta do. Once you, it's a lot of actors say this, but once you get, a laugh or a reaction from the audience, that's something that you continue to chase for the rest of your life. And nothing is better than that. And it's really incredible to see how an audience reacts, especially when it's in front of a live audience.
That's really cool. And I was gonna say, like, as a filmmaker now, like I think you're a multifaceted sort of background. You play actress, you play screenwriter, you play director. You put on a lot of hats during the filmmaking process. I was actually curious, like, do you have, because you talked a little bit about your acting, but do you have a favorite out of those roles as you're working through producing a film or a short film or whatever whatever project you're working on?
I love acting. And I started writing scripts to write the roles that I wanted to play. So I will say that acting is my number one. And then I would say directing, because you get to be the boss and that's really
Right.
fun. And you get to make all the decisions. Unless you're working for like a huge network or studio, then you don't really get to make all the decisions. The money makes all the decisions. But in terms of directing, what's really fun about it with someone with an acting background is that I personally have worked with a lot of directors that I admire and that I tried to steal their technique from when I was directing Definition Please. And I was inspired by them. And that's what I tell a lot of actors who are looking into, oh, maybe I should direct this, maybe I shouldn't. And I say, you should. If you even have any inkling to direct, an actor should direct, because they are already halfway there in terms of how to speak and communicate with fellow actors. Like, we already do it all the time when we do auditions. We are helping our friends with those, and we're pretty much directing them in their auditions. And so I like to tell actors to just go ahead and take the plunge and direct as well, because we know what we like in terms of when we're on set and how we like to be treated and when we feel safe in terms of accessing our emotions. So I would say directing is number two. Writing is really fun, actually. So I think writing might be on the same level as directing. So one is acting, two is directing and writing, and then three is producing, because that's a lot of organization and non-creative stuff that you have to think about. And so in the future, I hope to kind of take a back seat in terms of the producing part of it all.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like everything kind of trickles down to the acting. Like that's what everything leads to. So that's really cool. In terms of kind of segueing it to like your movie definition, please. How did you get started in getting that opportunity like to work on the movie, and what was it like kind of taking on the director hat for the first time?
Oh, well, to get started, I gave myself the opportunity. So so um like I said, I had been working with Issa Rae during Awkward Black Girl, and then when I went on to do Insecure, and that really inspired me. I worked with an amazing writer director, Matthew Cherry, who
Oh, I love Matthew
did a
Cherry.
did
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
movie did a movie called Nine Rides that went to South by Southwest, I believe in 2013 or 2012. I'm not sure of the date, but it's around that time. And I was in that movie, and he did it all on his own. And I was like, okay, this is all very interesting to me. And then in 2016, I did the Sundance Screenwriting Lab. I got in, which was really exciting. And with those labs, you really have to show that you're persistent. I think it was the third or fourth time that I had submitted and applied to the lab, and so I got in after several tries. And then after I did the Sundance Screenwriting Lab, I went to Sundance Film Festival for the first time in 2017. And my friend Justin Chon, his film Gook was playing there. It was premiering. And I was blown away after I saw the premiere, and I talked to him afterwards and I asked him how he got it made. And he said, "Oh, I just, scrounged up money from my friends and family, put it all together, and we shot it ourselves." And I said, "Okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do too." So in 2017, I started writing the feature film version of Definition Please, which was based on a short sketch that I wrote. Uh, I wrote the previous year in a UCB sketch writing class, Upright Citizens Brigade, and started writing the script, went through a lot of rewrites, and it was ready to go in 2018. And so I started pitching it around to a couple production companies that I already had relationships with. And every time I got the same note, it was, "We love the script, but we're not making movies like this. This isn't part of our mandate.
Mm.
We're looking for bigger things." So I was like, okay, well, people like the script, so that's good. And then in early 2019, I went back to Sundance, and Justin's next film, Ms. Purple, was playing there, and I just beat myself up. I was like, he's made two movies and I've made zero, so this is not a good look. And I vowed then and there to shoot Definition Please in the summer of 2019, and I just started making phone calls. And luckily, I had some television money that came in pretty much in that second that I made the decision. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to put this TV money into Definition Please, and I'm going to be the first investor into my film. And so I was the first investor. I started meeting with a whole bunch of other people, just to everyone I would talk to, everyone I would run into. I would say, "Hey, I'm raising money for my movie. Would you want to put some money in, or do you know anyone that would be interested?" And generally, if they weren't interested, they would say, "Oh, actually, I have a cousin who's a doctor or a dentist or in finance or in tech, and they might be interested." So I said, "Yeah, that's cool." So then raised the rest of the money. Got my producer on board, Cameron Fife, who's amazing and has done like six or seven feature films in the past. And then got my DP on board, Brooks Ludwig, which was very important for this type of film because I was also acting in it. So I knew that I had to completely trust my cinematographer, to get the shots that I wanted and to get the tone and the feel that I wanted, because since it was low budget, I wasn't going to be able to watch anything during the filming of the movie. And I just had to trust him. So got Brooks Ludwig, who I'd worked on a feature film with like a year or two before shooting Definition Please, called Blowing Up Right Now. And then I texted my friends to see if they wanted to be in the cast, and a lot of them said yes. So that was really exciting. And then we went out to Greensburg to shoot the movie.
That's amazing. That's amazing that like you just kind of went for it and decided like, hey, this is I'm just going to make my own opportunity and go for that. I think that's such a huge like message, at least for like up and coming artists and creatives that are looking to break into the filmmaking. I guess on that note, did you, because the film industry is kind of shifting a lot right now with the streaming services being at the forefront as opposed to on screen, like going to the theater sort of movies, do you have a preference to which one you would like your projects to be aired on, like streaming services versus like in person? Because I know that's a huge like hot topic right now, especially among like directors and people who are coming out with movies right now.
I think what's exciting about streamers is that they've been way more open to different stories and stories that haven't been told yet. So that's really exciting to me. And for me, I mean, Definition Please went on the virtual film festival circuit because we finished the film in early 2020, and we were set to premiere at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival in May of 2020. And of course, that didn't happen because of
Right,
COVID.
right.
So then we decided to premiere at Bentonville, which is Gina Davis's film festival, in August of 2020. And then for about a year and a couple months, we just did the virtual film festival circuit. And yes, we did miss out on those awesome live screenings that would have happened at these festivals. And also, I will say I was really bummed because we got into Hawaii International Film Festival, and I could have been
Oh,
able to
wow.
go there if it was a normal year.
Oh.
And I've never been to Hawaii, and
Aw, dang.
I was like, this would have been dope. But yeah, that's something that I talk about all the time. Miss going to Hawaii.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, I will just say, as personally as an independent film, indies don't usually get a wide release. So if you do find a distributor that wants to acquire your film, maybe you'll open in New York and LA for a month, or not even a month, for a week in one theater.
Right.
And then it goes away. And then maybe it's on iTunes for rental for $4.99. Um, but the fact that Ava DuVernay's company Array acquired us, and then they have a deal with Netflix streaming, I think that was really one of the most perfect places, one of the most perfect homes that we could have found for our movie, because people from it's now on English speaking countries. So it is on US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So everyone in these countries have access to watch it, which is really cool. So I think the access is amazing. I do feel bummed that we missed out on the film festival circuit of it all in terms of live screenings, but in the end, like, we really enjoyed our full journey. We did a lot of virtual panels with those film festivals, and we made a lot of fans along the way, which was great. And we played festivals even in very small parts of the country that aren't in big cities. And so I don't regret doing any of the virtual film festival circuit, because we got a lot of press and reviews out of it. And I don't think a lot of people would have known about the movie if we had just come out on Netflix without having done that virtual film
Right.
festival.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, it sucks to hear that you couldn't go to Hawaii. COVID really does suck.
Unfortunate.
Maybe like a redemption or like a round, or maybe just go back whenever things get better. But yeah, I agree with you. I think being able to do all that virtual press really helped, just because Sneha and I, how we found the movie was through social media, and how
Oh,
a lot
cool.
of the social South Asian community was talking about it. So that was when we both kind of watched it together, and were really intrigued about the movie as a whole. And we watched it on like Netflix Party, and then afterwards we like talked for a good hour about it. It was like,
It
oh
was
my god,
it
it's
was
so
yeah, yeah.
it just kept breaking it down. It was so good. So I think it was really like you said, it really ended up working out in the end, even if you didn't get to really do it the, I guess, the quote unquote traditional way.
Wow,
Um,
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for the Netflix party.
Yeah, that would we've been trying to do a lot of these because I mean I so me and Kirti, like, backstory, we haven't been in the same room in like 2 years. But, okay, like for more than like maybe a day or so in between, like we came for Thanksgiving or something, so it was nice to get together and watch this film together and like fangirl over something that we both really cared about, and topics and themes that felt like what resonated with us. So it was really fun. Like, we truly are like fans of this movie. So please, listeners, go check it out. It's really good. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, sidetrack. We'll continue.
no, you're good. But that is technically on track, because what we
Yes.
kind of wanted to do for the next couple of questions, as like a viewer standpoint, we kind of wanted to ask you some things based on some of the themes that we kind of found in the movie, and there may be some spoilers, listeners, so you have to watch the movie, like pause and watch the movie and come back. um, so I guess for the first question, there was a lot of themes that I guess as a South Asian American we could kind of really point out, like the need for talking about mental health, specifically about like therapy and like understanding medication, and like the intergenerational dynamics behind that. And there's like so many other themes that were kind of seen throughout the movie. how did you, I guess, or what, how and what made you kind of want to have the plot revolve around those core topics? And I guess, were you able to kind of put in your like personal experiences to reflect the movie with your role as Monica or maybe another character in the movie?
So I the movie's not autobiographical, but it is very personal where um I mentioned that I grew up in a pretty large Indian American community in Western Pennsylvania. And so as I was growing up, I saw, in it started happening in late middle school, high school, when a lot of pressure was being put on my friends and to take a bunch of AP classes to get a certain score on the SATs, to even be in like a million extracurriculars, to be on student council, to get into the right prep programs, to get into the right Ivy League schools. And what was starting to happen is that people were developing depression and anxiety and paranoia, and just kind of a whole slew of mental illness. And for example, one kid ran away from home. I think he was a junior, and the parents were so confused. Why did he run away from home? He has everything he needs. And we were just like, I don't know. I think he's like depressed or and so we nobody really knew that you go to therapy. Nobody was, especially the parents. They didn't know. Oh, go talk to your school counselor. Go. We didn't even know to say that. And so it was interesting because I saw that happening in high school, and then when I went to college, when I went to Case Western, it wasn't only just happening in the South Asian American community, it was happening in the Asian American community as a whole. And Case Western is like a science tech pre-med school, and everyone's there for engineering or business, and really under a lot of pressure. And I was like, whoa, this is happening on a larger scale and within Asian Americans. And it would lead to tragedy. It would lead to, a student jumping off the dorms and committing suicide. And so I was like, this is like a thing that I don't see in film, in media. And this is when it is in film and media, it's kind of exaggerated, and it's a stereotypical version of it, and it's not a real depiction. It's kind of the writer's idea of what he thinks bipolar is, or what he thinks schizophrenia is. And so I was very much intrigued by that, and especially how it links to our community, and that was important to me. So when I started writing the script, of course it came from that seed of an idea of, okay, a former spelling bee champion grows up and is not living up to her potential. And so, okay, so why not? So I wanted to answer those questions. And I said it was because of her relationships. It was her relationship with her father, it was her relationship with her mom. It was especially to do with her relationship with her brother. So what is she dealing with there? And I said, okay, they're dealing with mental health in a way that we're going to watch every single character react to it in a certain way. And so we see how Sunny reacts. We see how Jaya, the mom, treats Sunny in contradiction to how Monica, the sister, treats Sunny. So I think that was also important to me, to kind of show the effects of mental illness in someone that wasn't the person with mental illness.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, a lot of times we see the romanticized view because everybody's like, we can't share it all on screen. Like it's like that doesn't make it a movie. So it's very raw, and I definitely see that in Definition Please. I think Sneha and I were both talking about how the you could see a lot of it. It was more of like a show not tell, and it was like that was what we appreciated a lot, because a lot of times when people do want to portray these topics in media, they like, want to front out and label it or say something about it in the very beginning, which kind of can give some different perspectives for the viewer. So I definitely agree with that. And that's really cool that you wanted to also answer the like or show it in a perspective of someone who doesn't have mental health. issues? Because I think that's also another challenge in our community as well. How do you handle or help someone with mental health issues? Like, how do you be that person for someone?
Yeah, exactly. I remember one early note from a producer with the script was saying something bigger has to happen. Like when when Sunny gets into the fight with her mom, she's got to die. And I was like, no, she doesn't have to die. I think we watched them all deal with the aftermath of it, you know? So that was an interesting note. And that's speaking to making it more exciting for viewers, you know.
Right. Yeah. So I also want, I guess, a lot of the dynamics between these conversations between Sunny and Monica was very like a sibling dynamic. It was very focused on like how they could help each other, and I think that's super important to talk about. Just because in the South Asian American community, I feel like the sibling dynamics are a lot more powerful, just from our experiences, because we're like, and in comparison to like your parents, because there is a cultural barrier there. So in terms of getting help, the closest person in your family to reach out to would be like a sibling. So I guess in terms of like having those types of conversations and opening up, do you feel that our community to be able to kind of generate more conversation around these types of topics like the characters in the movie, do you think strengthening relationship between siblings is a tool for opening up conversations about mental health? And I guess in your opinion, what are other ways to help open up or make these conversations more transparent within South Asian families?
Yeah, I think that that is a good tool. And like you mentioned, there is the generational difference and the cultural difference, and you feel a lot closer to your sibling, and you can feel more free to tell them stuff about what's happening at school or with your friends. And so I think it's really important to have that support system in your family, but also if that's not there, if you're an only child or if there's other issues there, then you have to have a really strong friend network. And I think it is right now in this moment after 2 years of the pandemic, it feels like a lot more people are talking about mental health and mental illness. And we've been sitting at home, and a lot of people haven't dealt with this very well. And they find themselves in a certain emotional place. And so what I'm seeing is that people are just way more open to talk about it. Like how to answer the question, how are you doing today? Actually, you know what? I'm like not doing that great. you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah,
so I think that's really a big step that
right.
society as a whole is just starting to talk about it. And then the other thing that I noticed with Definition Please is that our parents' generation like really loves the movie. And it is wild because I'm like, it's not G-rated. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that you're just like, "Oh, okay, that's happening." And
Yeah.
and so it was really cool to see how my mom has this WhatsApp group with the other aunties in Greensburg that also expands to the other aunties in Pittsburgh, that then expands to the aunties in Houston, Chicago, and Sacramento, and all over the country. And they have been talking up the movie on their WhatsApp groups, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting because I feel like they have just maybe just I have very, liberal parents in general. So that could be a part of why I'm just seeing this amongst the older generation. But I think it's really cool for them to watch the film and be like, oh, maybe I should be talking to my kids about this. I hope they're feeling okay. So I think that's also really important to bridge the gap, not just between siblings, but to bridge the gap between your parents and your aunts and uncles as well.
No, I think that's really cool. And I mean, I think we mentioned this in an earlier episode, me and Kirti did, but we were talking about how, our parents are also kind of misrepresented in media nowadays because they are also kind of, uh, like uprooted from there, like from India as well. So like they are getting slowly distanced from that cultural aspect. So they're kind of in the same boat as us. And I'm wondering if that's the reason why they also felt like that your movie resonated, because you're not painting the parents as this like stereotypical auntie uncle, situation. You're giving them personalities, you're giving them kind of westernized takes on their old South Asian takes. You know what I mean? Like there's like a nice balance that you created with these characters. And I wonder if that's also why the older generation is finding interest in it, because they're also being like, wow, an auntie, a mom that does weed, cool. That's not something that you see every day. Like that's not something that you see like on, like just like other South Asian American films and all that stuff. So I don't know. I think that's really cool that you were able to bridge that intergenerational gap between the characters as well as between the siblings themselves.
Yeah,
But
that was very intentional because I've been in Hollywood auditioning for a lot of stuff, and
Mhm.
I've noticed that there are these stereotypes of the parents that keep coming up over and over. Even now, when I'm getting scripts to potentially direct, and in on the first page or two, it says, "Ah, the parents are don't want her to play the guitar," and I'm like, "Why are we doing this again? Why
Right.
this
Move
again?
on.
Move on. Let her play the guitar and get on to the next, the next topic." And so that was something that I very much wrote into the script like right away. I was like, we're going to have a cool mom. Like this mom
Yeah.
is going to operate out of love. Everything that she does is out of love to her kids and wanting to get closer to them and wanting them to be close to each other. And and when I reached out to Anna Kaja to play the role of Jaya, she read the script and then she said to me, she's like, I've never read a role like this before. I've never played a role like this before. And she's played a lot of Desi moms on TV and in film. And she was just really excited because that role has such a fun arc, and she gets to play a whole bunch of different emotions, and she's duping the kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that
It's
That
just
was
that
a
one I
like
didn't
what?
see coming.
Yeah, I was like,
I
we were
didn't
like,
see that
what?
one coming.
We had to pause it for a second. We're like, what just happened?
She was
so
lying.
yeah. So I don't know. And it was really fun to create characters, not just Monica, not just the role that I was going to play, that I was really excited about to play, but to create really dense, awesome, like well-rounded characters kind of with Jaya and also with Sunny as well.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I guess kind of going off that a little bit, going back into like the mental health side of your movie. I think Kirti mentioned this a little bit back, but I we noticed that the movie specifically refrains from specifically labeling the mental health issue that Sunny is going through in the movie, or both characters are going through the movie, until maybe at the very end it's sort of mentioned, like bipolar is sort of thrown out. Can you talk a little bit about that decision of kind of putting that at the end as opposed to just coming up front in the very beginning and saying, "Oh, he has bipolar"? Why did you think that was the best way to tell the story?
Yeah, I felt that I think what Sunny was going through felt like it could be a couple of different things.
Yeah,
And as we reveal and pulled back the layers kind of petal by petal, it could be like, oh, is it because what's happening? Is he just feel a certain way because their dad didn't really pay a lot of attention to him, and their dad gave all the attention to Monica? Or is it like, is he just mad at Monica, or is he is he just really happy for some reason at the top of the movie? And you're kind of figuring it out. And also I loved to play that against Monica's character, because in the beginning you're like, oh, this girl is not nice. Like, why isn't she being nice to her brother? Like, why isn't
yeah,
she just being cool? And so you're kind of seeing the flaws in Monica's character as well right away. You're like, okay, she's not being kind, and she's not being open and supportive about whatever's happening. And so I did feel like I wanted the audience to kind of come to their own conclusions about what was going on. And then once it is revealed at the end, to be like, oh, okay, I can see that. And also I think I, as opposed to them having that conversation in the therapist's office, I was like, okay, let's have the conversation out in the parking lot, um so that it can just be the two of them, and it can be really it can hit home a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think that was really successful because I definitely like I think the therapist office itself would have been a little bit more like I guess like forced almost, or it would come off as forced. So I think that was good to move it. But I was also going to say that pivotal point in the movie between Monica and Sunny. Again, this is spoiler warning, but between Monica and Sunny, where they're in the treehouse and Monica just looks straight into his eyes and is like, "I can't hang out with you unless you take medication and go to therapy." Like what I think that was such a pivotal point, and then like the scenes after that where she's kind of seeing the effect that that's taking that decision is taking on him. What are your views on like the concept of like medication and therapy in terms of like mental health issues? Do you kind of lean towards one or the other? Like what is your take on that just outside of the movie
I think
itself?
it depends on what you're dealing with. So I
Right.
truly listen. I believe in science. I'm vaccinated. I'm boosted. Boost me every year. Like
Yeah,
let's
yeah, yeah.
get it. Let's get it. So you know, Tesh comes from a family of doctors and did a lot of research in terms of the mental health aspect of his character, and so I am of the camp of both therapy and medication in terms of like what's the right medication. So I think uh, and this is something that Krista says in the film when she's at the bar. She's like, "Yo, you got to try different medications to find out what works for you. What works, what doesn't make you into a zombie. What um and I think it's really important to take medication to just be able to, get up in the morning and do your everyday activities without anxiety. And so if that is something that is going to help you and it's going to, you know, bring you joy and make you happy, and as long as you're not abusing this medication, you're taking it as far as what the doctor's orders are, I truly believe medication can definitely help in terms of what exactly is your diagnosis.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, like you said, to just educate the viewer and allow them to kind of make their own conclusions. Because I feel like that helped in that sense too. Because personally, for me, I am aware of what's out there, but I'm not very that knowledgeable in medication. So it allowed me to kind of start asking questions myself, like, okay, so what is out there? Like, why is Sunny having to take it? Why is Monica asking Sunny to take it? And how is he affecting everybody else and their mental health issues? It started making me think as well when I was watching the movie. So it allowed. I feel like it makes you it was you were able to kind of like comfortably learn and not feel like judged in a lot of times where how people do around these types of topics in like a public setting. So I think that was a really good intentional take, and it's very cool that Tesh was able to kind of like put the research in and accurately portray it, like you said. And I think a lot of the mental health issues that we kind of talk about, a lot of it kind of stems from like the idea of like what it means to be successful, or like what is the definition of success really. And so I guess was there the way that you showed Monica's background and her character growth, was there how do you feel like that definition of success affects I guess how the characters kind of grew in the movie, or even like in general about the South Asian community? Was there like a specific takeaway or something you wanted the viewers to understand that in correlation to that and like mental health?
Yeah, I believe this goes back to writing stereotypical characters and me pushing back against that, and me auditioning for roles over and over again that have the same storyline and the same plot, and usually about an arranged marriage. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's like a very small part of culture. And honestly, I'm just gonna straight out say, like, me and my friends who I grew up with, like our parents never mentioned arranged marriage to us. You know, like our parents had an arranged marriage, but like with us, they were like, you're going to the prom, you're dating, you're going to dances. Like, why would we think that you guys were going to have an arranged marriage? So that's such a skewed view of how Western media sees our people in general. So in terms of that, I was like, I want to fight back against this model minority myth that we're always seeing on screen. And so I was like, she's going to be smoking weed. She's going to be kind of a bum. She like tutors kids, but like she should be doing something bigger, obviously. She's a smart, intelligent person that just hasn't, found that thing yet, or hasn't, she's just stuck. She's in a state of arrested development.
Right.
And so in terms of mental health, I just wanted to portray, like I love indie movies and I am inspired by indie film. And so this movie was inspired by, Duplass brothers movies. They were inspired, it was inspired by a couple very specific sibling dramedies that I love called The Savages, You Can Count on Me, and Skeleton Twins. And they're all dealing with different uh, mental illness or blocks in their lives. And I said, okay, I've never seen a movie like this with a South Asian American family. So I said, all right, I'm going to make the one of these movies that I loved growing up, and I'm going to just have it with brown faces.
That's amazing. And I guess kind of going off that a little bit in a very holistic sort of view, like how do you see the South Asian representation in media? Like you kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you think we're like at a state where we're collectively kind of getting better, or in terms of representation in media, or is it kind of just stagnant at this point? Like where do you think the South Asian representation in media is going in the future?
I think it's definitely getting better, and it always starts
Okay.
with the creators and the writers, and it's really exciting, just with Mindy Kaling and Never Have I Ever, and even the Desi girl on Sex Lives of College Girls, and so it's going in an awesome direction, and what's exciting is that these creators, even like Kumail Nanjiani and Hassan Minaj, and Hassan Minaj is another one that really talks about topics across the board, which is really great. And I'm excited to see more uh, like narrative content from him. So hopefully he's got like movies and shows coming out as well. And so I think as a whole, we just have to, as the writers and creators of this content, we just have to continue to write from our authentic point of view and to not write to what we think the audience wants to see.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
you're.
that's really. I was gonna say. I think that's really cool because, like in your film, you can, the first like 10 minutes, there's like mention of Mary Biscuits, and then they go to Patel Brothers. I love that. That's so
Oh,
good. Like
brothers.
you really can't like, and they're playing carom board, and there's no explanation of the rule. Like I do appreciate that side, and I think it really did come through in your movie. So very exciting stuff. Very exciting to see on screen. And yeah, I don't know, Kirti. Sorry, I cut you off. Continue
Oh
your
no,
your
you're.
thought.
Oh no, no, you're good. You're good. I was just gonna to say the same thing. Like being able to like connect, it allows us to connect more to the films as well. So I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that. I guess since you did talk a little bit about like how you hope to see the representation change, more of like you said with the less explanation and kind of going straight to the details. How do you see yourself being a part of that change beyond just beyond your work? How do you kind of see yourself kind of helping contribute to like some of those ideals that you hope to see in the future?
Yeah, I'm excited to I think something that has been really awesome with the film coming out on Netflix is I'm getting a lot of DMs, I'm getting a lot of messages, emails saying, "Wow, you've inspired me to write to instead of making the short film that I was going to make, I'm making a feature
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I'm going to make a short film or I'm going to make a sketch or I'm going to make a TikTok video about this or I'm going to start writing and I'm going to write a poem or a short story." And so that's the goal. That's the main goal, just to continue to create content that inspires other people to create their own content. And because I was inspired by so many people, I was inspired by Isa, by Justin, by Matthew, who just went out and did their own thing, no matter what other people said, that, oh, this isn't a movie that people are going to want to see. This isn't a show that people will care about. But against all odds, they just went out and did their thing. And so they inspired me to go out and do my thing. And I hope to inspire the next generation of filmmakers and creators and writers to just go out and do your own thing, no matter what.
Oh, it's very exciting. We're hoping to see we'll be able to be viewers for those feature works as well. In line with that, I guess as we kind of wrap this episode, what is some advice that you would give to people who are looking to break into the like entertainment industry and be like screenwriters, directors, or actors and actresses? What would be some advice that you kind of give to them, and also how do you think they can like get their foot in the door of a community that a lot of times the connections help you get that first opportunity? How would you what would be some advice on that as well for people who are not really like a part of that community just yet?
I would say to start creating stuff ASAP right away. And obviously, a feature film is way more daunting and something that you shouldn't do as your first thing, as
Right,
your
right.
first project. But let's say you have a feature film script and you're like, I want to shoot this, but I don't have $10 million. It's like, okay, we'll take a bit out of that, take like 2 or 3 minutes out of that and shoot that. So I didn't just start with Definition Please. You see the poster behind me is Cowboy and Indian, which is a short film that I
Right.
did in 2016. And it's on Vimeo and everybody can watch it. It's 8 minutes long. And I got a germ of an idea. And I was visiting Joshua Tree for the first time and I got really inspired there. And I wrote the 5-page script and then I shot it in one day. And then I edited it and put it through production. And I went through the whole film festival circuit with that. So I really think there's no excuse anymore to not shoot or create your own thing. And there's so many avenues where you can place it. So you can put it on TikTok or Instagram video or YouTube. And so you got to start small, but you got to just keep creating those things so that um, you know fellow creators can find you, and that's how you start building your community. And you can start being in each other's videos, and also you don't have to live in New York or LA anymore. Like, I want to see if you live in the middle of Iowa, like go outside and like film your videos there, include your parents in your videos. And yeah, so I that's my advice, is to just um shoot stuff and continue shooting stuff and build your community online.
That's amazing. And with that, because we can't really top that, that was pretty spectacular advice. Thank you, Sujata, for taking the time out of your day to have this wonderful conversation with us. Um, for our listeners, Definition Please is available and streaming on Netflix. Please check it out. Sujata, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This was super fun.
Yay!
So before you kind of leave us today, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Ravi Ray Audio. You might have heard that our intro and outro music is a little bit different this season and is definitely upgraded to a next level. That's all thanks to Ravi Ray, who was our last guest in season 2, and he agreed to help us out with our music for season 3. So thank you so much, Ravi Ray, for all your help. And if you guys want to get in contact with him to collaborate with any projects or work with Ravi Ray Audio, we are linking his information to the episode description, so you can reach out to him or see all the other projects he's done. And thanks again, Ravi, and we'll see you guys all in the next one.